Hi, I'm Shashank Bhargava, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. In this episode, we talk about the Manipur government's latest proposal to solve the ongoing crisis in the state and why it is unlikely to work. We also give you an update on Chandrayaan 3 and the challenges the rover is going to face going forward. But first, we talk about the case that has once again raised concerns about incidents of hate in the country. Last week, a video surfaced online in which a teacher was instructing children in her classroom to repeatedly hit a young Muslim student and was speaking pejoratively about those of the Muslim faith. The incident, which took place in Uttar Pradesh, sparked widespread outrage and eventually also led the police to take action. But in the meantime, the teacher at the center of the case has continued to justify her actions. In this segment, we are joined by Indian Express's Jignasa Sinha to tell us what happened. Jignasa, begin by telling us where this incident took place and who all did it involve.
So, the incident took place at Khubapur village. It's a small village in Muzaffarnagar district, and the viral video in question is from Thursday, where a 60-year-old woman named Tripta Tyagi, who's a teacher and owns the school, Neha Public School, she is seen scolding a child and instigating a group of students to hit the child. So the child is the 7-year-old Muslim boy, and the woman can be seen telling the children repeatedly that about Mohammedan women and Muslims, and she's provoking these children to hit the child hard, and she complains that he has not done his homework or something like that, and the kids can be seen hitting the child, and obviously the child is crying and he's wailing, but the teacher continues to do this and continues to provoke this.
And Jignasa, one moment that really stands out in this video is when this particular student hits the child, and then the teacher points out that he's not hitting this child hard enough.
Yeah. So, something which is not part of the video is that this went on for almost an hour. So the kid and his family alleged that the boy, who's only 7 years old, was hit by each and every child of that class. And in video, as we can see, when one child is hitting him, the teacher says, "You're not hitting him hard enough. Isko kamar pe maro," is what she tells him, And then the other children hit the child on the back, on his waist, as he's wailing. And, the teacher is just complaining that he has not learned his multiplication tables and he must be punished. And then she's talking about Mohammedan women taking children to their homes and then, wasting the kids' time as an excuse for all this.
And could you tell us who was the person recording this video?
So the video is recorded by the child's uncle, and the child's uncle is a construction worker, and he's currently helping the woman, Tripta Tyagi, rebuild her school. And so he had come for some work, and then he noticed that his nephew is being beaten up. But he doesn't tell the teacher that, this boy is his nephew, and he secretly records the video while she's getting him beaten up and, she's instigating the other kids. So we spoke to him yesterday and he told us that I was just recording the video because I wanted to know what she does and, how this all operates out.
And after this video went viral, it sparked a lot of outrage. A lot of people were sharing it online. Talk about the kind of reactions it prompted.
So from RLD to Congress, everybody has been posting about this, Rahul Gandhi, Priyanka Gandhi, they were very disappointed when they saw the video. Everybody has been saying that this is horrific, the incident, a boy being targeted for his religion, for his faith, and a teacher instigating a group of, 7-year-olds to hit a child hard enough and hit a child for something, for no reason at all. And since she's the school owner, she must have done this before. And, the child was harassed for almost an hour for no reason at all. So while the incident took place on Thursday, the UP police registered an FIR on Saturday. It was only on Saturday that after the fathers complained and after all the outrage because of the video, the police lodged an FIR against the woman and her school for causing hurt to the child and provoking the children to hit him.
And Jignasa, after this incident came to light, the teacher in question issued a clarification. Tell us what she said in her defense.
Yeah, so on Saturday, the teacher extensively spoke to several media outlets, including us. And, she told us that she realizes it's a mistake, but she thinks that it is a mistake because she had asked the children to hit the boy. She told us that she's handicapped and she's a 60-year-old woman with a heart condition and she should have gotten up herself and beat the child, which makes no sense, but that's what she told us. And then she told TV media that she's not ashamed of her acts at all, because when she was constantly questioned that, don't you feel bad for doing this to a child, because the boy currently is in trauma, his family is worried and scared, and the woman just told the media that she's completely fine with it and that she has support of all the Muslim families in the area and she has not done anything wrong and she was only trying to maintain discipline in the class and her intent wasn't bad, and she has issued a clarification saying she's not ashamed of it.
And you mentioned that the police only registered an FIR on Saturday. Tell us, what action have they taken since then?
So the police registered an FIR against the woman under very lenient sections of only causing hurt and provoking the children. Nothing else. The sections are bailable in nature because they think that the teacher did not deliver a hate speech or she did not commit an act that is incriminating enough for an arrest. So she has not been arrested yet. And since Saturday, there's been no other action other than the FIR. So while this is from the police's side, the education department in Muzaffarnagar has now sealed the school. And the basic education officer, Shubham Shukla, told the media that they found several irregularities in the school, including that the teacher was not teaching at the school but was teaching at the home. The incident was also recorded there since the school is undergoing construction. And he said that the school does not meet the criteria of the board, though it was affiliated in 2019. They said they've cancelled the affiliation. They've deregistered the school and for now they have sealed it. They're conducting a further inquiry. Also, the teacher in question, Tripta Tyagi, has been sent a notice for manhandling the child.
And Jignasa, you also spoke to the family of the 7-year-old kid. What have they been going through and how have they reacted to this entire thing?
So on Saturday, when we met the family was surrounded with politicians, media, locals. Everybody was at their house, either supporting them or, demanding them to get the FIR expunged. And the father is extremely worried and scared because he says that he's just a farm laborer and with a family of 5 people, he's scared for his child's future. He just wants the child to have a normal future. He just wants the child to go back to a school and not face the media and the police and everything. And he was very scared, initially, because after the video went viral on Thursday night, he released a statement saying that I do not want an FIR registered against the teacher. I don't want her to be arrested. I don't want any action against her. I'm just pulling out my son from the school. I just want my money back and that's it. And on Saturday, he said that, I again do not want any action against her. It's just that when we went to confront her, she was very rude to us and she threatened us, which felt really humiliating. And he's shocked because he knows the teacher. It's a small village. There are only 375 families. And, he has known the teacher for years and he did not expect her to do this to her son. And we spoke to the child as well, and he's also shocked and he doesn't know what is happening with him. He just knows that he was humiliated and his faith was brought in question and every student was asked to hit him just for a very simple mistake. And the father is now, rethinking his options. Do they want to shift? Do they want the child to shift to another school? So that's that.
And one imagines that tensions must be running high in the region. Has the administration taken any action to kind of de-escalate the situation and give assurance to the people in the region?
So on Saturday, we did not witness anything that the administration did to, help the family or to support the family. There were different parties, opposition parties outside the house. There was Naresh Tiketh, who's a farm leader, who held an informal peace meeting where he again pushed the family to, for a compromise with the accused. Then there were other village heads who had come to visit the family and they also pushed the father to take back the FIR. And obviously they scared the family, but they did not file an FIR or approach authorities. While police had increased the deployment in the area, neither the police nor did the administration do anything to stop anybody from coming or leaving the village.
And next we talk about Manipur, which has been witnessing ethnic clashes for nearly 4 months now. The clashes, as many of you already know, have been taking place between the dominant Meiteis and the Kuki tribes and have killed more than 160 people so far. The divide between the two sides right now is so deep that for weeks now the Kuki community has been saying that the only way to end this crisis is for them to have a separate administration. Now, in an effort to find a middle ground, the Biren Singh government in the state recently informed the centre that they are ready to grant greater autonomy to the hill councils in the state. The hills, of course, are where the majority of the tribal community, including the Kukis, reside, and the valley is dominated by the Meiteis. To know more about this proposal and the problems surrounding it, my colleague Utsa Sarmin speaks to Indian Express's Deeptiman Tiwary.
So Deeptiman, since the conflict started almost 4 months ago, this is the first time the state government said that they will grant greater autonomy to the existing hill councils in the state. Tell us, what kind of autonomy are they talking about?
We don't yet have details as to what are the nitty-gritty of the proposal and at what level, how far this discussion has gone on, because everything has to be agreed by both the parties. Only then there is any meaning of this sort of a proposal. But our understanding is that this is about granting more powers to the autonomous district councils, which would be in terms of both, how much of a say they could have in the budgetary provisions, in formulation of legislations for these districts, in terms of whatever are the departments that they can actually govern and oversee, and allocation of resources to development projects. So that is what it is likely to be, but we do not have the nitty-gritty or the details of what exactly the proposal is by the state government.
And you mentioned that this autonomy will be extended to the autonomous district councils. So can you tell us what they are?
Look, there are autonomous district councils already in 4 states in the northeast, that is Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram and Tripura. Now, these autonomous district councils draw their power from the 6th schedule of the constitution. These autonomous district councils were a result of the demand by tribal communities largely living in the hilly areas of these states that, they are a minority in a state populated by mainstream population, and they have a distinct identity, distinct culture, and distinct social practices and languages. And so the same needed protection, and if the same was not provided, their culture and their identity and their language would be obliterated and would be overpowered by the mainstream population. This was also because there were, multiple insurgencies in these states to protect identity, culture, and their own territory from being taken over. So as a compromise formula, the ADCs were created that, okay, fine, you don't have to pick up the gun and fight, and we'll give you a chance at self-governance. You govern yourself. Why do you need, a separate state or a separate nation? We are giving what you need. So this is how ADCs were created.
And so does Manipur also have provisions for these ADCs?
Yeah, see, the ADCs in Manipur are very different from ADCs in the other 4 states that I spoke about. The ADCs in Manipur draw their power from an Act of Parliament enacted in 1971. It is called the Manipur Hill Area District Councils Act. So this does not draw directly from the Constitution. What has been argued that not only is the ADC Act in Manipur is not as robust as those, which function under the 6th schedule of the Constitution. Whatever is there in the legislation has actually been scuttled by the Manipur Assembly, where a majority of the legislators actually come from the mainland, the Imphal Valley, and so the hill tribes have argued that they have actually scuttled the intention of the ADCs, and over the years their powers have actually been, scuttled.
Right, and so what do the hill tribes say has been the impact of this, the impact of diluting the powers of the ADCs?
So they argue that, their powers are largely recommendatory in nature, so the state can, accept them or reject them. It is up to the state. Even the legislative suggestions that they make can actually be rejected. It is not binding on the state government. Then they have hardly any budgetary powers. They say so. Basically, it is just ineffective. And it is for this reason that actually for 20 years, the tribal population in between did not even participate in elections. And they said that there was no point of these ADCs. And so we don't intend to participate in the elections, and no elections were held for ADCs. It was only very recently that, elections started being held for ADCs and ADCs started being formed. So there has been a resistance within the valley to any sort of autonomy, even autonomy, forget separate administration, even autonomy to the hill area councils or committees. So that is why now this is being thought of as, maybe, some sort of compromise. Okay, fine. We cannot give you separate administration, but because you're agitating so much and you're shooting bullets, so take this.
Right, and Deeptiman, speaking of a separate administration, we understand that this has been a long-standing demand of the Kuki tribes, and that's why the centre right now feels that they will not accept the state government's proposal of a greater autonomy. So tell us, why has the Kuki community been pushing for a separate administration?
Look, the demand for separate administration has been a very old one. It's not a new, but it is being pushed more vigorously and more fiercely and with a sort of stubbornness by the Kuki community since the onset of violence in Manipur since May 3. So basically they have been demanding separate administration, saying that we have lost all trust in the NB Rein government because this government is complicit in the systematic annihilation of their community, and their fears and their anxiety and insecurity is founded on the fact that a very large number of Kukis were killed in Imphal Valley in the first 3 to 4 days of the violence. And this has resulted in the entire Kuki community withdrawing to the hills. And similarly, there were attacks on Meiteis in the hills, and Meiteis had to retreat to the valley. So their argument is that because this mixing of population, this living together is not going to work out because we are being subjected to ethnic cleansing. And so we have to have our own administration, a separate administration, a Kuki administration. We cannot function under this government. So that is their basic demand. Now, the government has been saying that we cannot give you a separate administration because integrity of Manipur's territory is non-negotiable. So what we can give you is probably more rights and more freedom in governing yourself. So that's what the government is saying, that, okay, fine, you take more autonomy, but don't ask for a separation from the state or being a separate entity. So that is where this entire thing stands.
Okay, so it seems that the state will not give in to the demand for a separate administration, and the Kuki community will not accept the proposal for greater autonomy. And there will continue to be a political deadlock over this. Now we understand that the Ministry of Home Affairs is also conducting separate talks with both the Meiteis and Kukis in search of a solution. So have there been any kind of outcomes from those talks?
Yeah, see, before this violence actually began, government had already been talking to SU groups, the suspension of operation agreement groups, militant groups, to reach a peace deal. And there are certain formulas which have been under discussion of giving them autonomous councils, maybe on the lines of the 6th schedule. So all of this has actually been going on for some time, but because of the unrest in Manipur at the moment, none of that is actually on the table at the moment. And the Kukis have dug in their heels, saying that we will take nothing except separate administrations. Meiteis are saying that we will not give you that, come what may. So the center is actually stuck in between these two competing groups. And it is understood that unless a modicum of prolonged peace is established in the state, nobody is likely to hear to reason at the moment.
And in the end, we talk about Chandrayaan 3. It has now been more than 100 hours since India successfully managed to soft land Chandrayaan 3 on the southern region of the moon, becoming the first country to have done so in the region. To find out what the rover has been up to since then and the challenges it will face in the coming days, we now speak to Indian Express's Anonna Dutt. Anonna, we have been waiting for the moon dust to settle down a bit. Tell us, what updates have we received from Chandrayaan 3 so far?
So the first thing is that everything is fine. We landed properly. Everything went as it should. 4 hours after the landing, all the systems were turned on. And the rover, which is housed inside the lander, came out of, there's a foldable ramp. The ramp opened up and the rover rolled out. It came on the lunar surface, and all the experiments on the rover also were switched on. And till Friday, ISRO updated us that the rover had moved 8 meters from the landing site, and it has been exploring nearby. It will basically study the composition of the lunar soil, look for water ice in the region, things like that. So all of the experiments are going on, and ISRO has put out an update. They have said that there were 3 main objectives of the mission. One was to land softly on the surface of the moon. The second was to operate a rover on the surface of the moon, both of which have been completed. The third is to carry out in situ experiments, which is ongoing right now and will for the 14 Earth days, which make up one lunar day.
And Anonna, could you talk about how much can this rover travel and what kind of challenges is it expected to face while exploring the lunar surface?
So it's a tiny thing housed within the lander. It's a 26 kg rectangular box-like structure which has 6 wheels. And it has one solar panel on one of the sides, which is what provides the 50-watt power it needs to move. In total, in the 14 days that it will carry out the experiments, it will move only a distance of 500 meters, which might seem very small distance, but it's big because this is the first time, the entire robotics has been done by India. For Chandrayaan 2 mission itself, India was supposed to actually collaborate with Russia to design the lander and the rover, because our electronics and robotics was not our forte, and they were supposed to help us. However, one of their missions to a Martian moon, Phobos, there were problems with that mission, and they knew that the same problems would occur in the lander rover that they would provide for Chandrayaan. So they withdrew from the mission in 2012, which is when India decided to make it on their own. So it's amazing that our robotics is on the moon at the moment collecting data. Another challenge that we will face at the end of the 14 days. So why I said that the mission life of the lander rover is 14 days is because we have landed at the site at the time of lunar dawn to give our payloads the entire one lunar day period to conduct all the experiments. That's because once it goes in the shadow, the temperature plummets to like minus 130 degree Celsius, which can damage all the electronics on board. And we don't really have, so the lander rover are completely solar panel operated. So we won't have a heating mechanism once the sunlight is gone. So of course, after the lunar night, when there's the day again, 14 days later, ISRO will try and revive the lander and rover, but the chances of that happening is very low because the electronics might have been damaged in the time.
Right, and talking about the temperature, the other update we received from the rover was about how sharply temperatures drop underneath the topsoil there. Chandrayaan 3 has reported that while on the surface, the temperature was above 45 degrees Celsius, below 10 centimeters of the surface, the temperature was minus 10 degrees Celsius, which is a big difference. But the other update we got regarding this mission was on Saturday, when PM Modi announced the name of the point where Chandrayaan 3 landed. Could you talk about what name they have decided upon?
So the PM, after coming back from the BRICS summit, interacted with the ISRO scientists, congratulating them for achieving the feat of softly landing on the moon, making India the 4th country actually only to land on the moon so far. So the point where the Chandrayaan 3 lander landed has been named Shiv Shakti Point, which the PM said was a tribute to all the women who have worked on the mission to make it a success. Surprisingly, the PM also announced that they would be naming the Chandrayaan 2 crash landing site, which has been called Tiranga, which, at the time of the mission, when it crash landed just like 2 kilometers from the surface of the moon, none of us expected this. We just depended on the payloads that were on the orbiter, and we have received good data from that for these years. But it was a welcome surprise that that point was also named on Saturday.
And Anonna, India's space mission has really expanded over the years, and we have seen more launches in the recent past compared to the previous years. So when we just talk about the number of launches, could you talk about how the last 10 years compare with the previous ones?
So you're right. We have seen a lot of launches happening, especially right after the pandemic. The activities have picked up. And from the data that I have analyzed of the missions over the years, there have been actually 47 launches, excluding the Chandrayaan launch, of course, that ISRO has done in the last, since 2014. under the current government. And if you compare it to the last 10 years, so there were 24 launches during the Manmohan Singh government. We have also got to look at the fact that even, the numbers could have been less, but even during that government, we had missions like Chandrayaan 1. Chandrayaan 1 happened during that period, and it was a very critical mission. It was the first time we went to celestial body, not in just the low Earth orbit or the GTO. We went somewhere far off. It also was very important for the world because it discovered water and restarted a race to the moon. So it was completed, I think, when the government changed, but the preparations had happened during the previous government. But we are also doing a lot of technical missions under the current government. We have, of course, launched Chandrayaan 2, Chandrayaan 3. Now we are about to launch our first mission to the sun in the next couple of months. And there is a lot of effort going on for the Gaganyaan mission. And all of this has been possible because of privatization of space sector, which takes, so a lot of the manufacturing is now done by private companies, which even previously used to collaborate, but now it's the collaboration is increasing. So all of this space activity has kind of helped, and there's a lot of infrastructure that is being made, which has also helped in increasing the number of launches in the recent years.
You were listening to Three Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was written and produced by me, Shashank Bhargava, with help from Utsa, Sarmin, and was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it, share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Audio and write to us at podcast@indianexpress.com.